The most anticipated film of 2021 is finally here with the sequel to the adaptation of Beatrix Potter's books Peter Rabbit. This is my review of Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway. Bea and Thomas are now married, and with the rabbits they have created a makeshift family, but despite his best efforts, Peter can't seem to shake his mischievous reputation. And as Bea tries to take the next step in her publishing career, Peter goes to the big city where he meets shady characters and ends up creating chaos for the entire family. Now, before I get started with my thoughts on the film, I want to know what you think of the original film back in 2018. Have you read the books? Did you grow up with them? Let me know all that in the comments below. Start the conversation. It's the most important part. And while you're down there, consider clicking the subscribe button if you haven't yet. If you're new to the channel, it does wonders to get my content out there, and you'll always be aware of whenever I upload more great content. I enjoyed the original Peter Rabbit just fine. I think it's perfectly disposable, harmless, fun, even if generic and unimpactful. I feel kind of the same way about Peter Rabbit 2. I think it's a more enjoyable film. I think it's got better lessons to teach, and it teaches them in a better manner. I also think the sense of humor in this film is really good sometimes, most of the times even. The human story is actually quite interesting. Bea and Thomas have this opportunity because this new publisher, played by David Oyelowo, wants to expand her books, make sequels and spin-offs and all that sort of stuff. So the story there does have a critique and a satire on commercialism and selling properties to make movie adaptations and sequels and spin-offs and all this sort of stuff that obviously Hollywood wants to make. The thing that hurts it kind of by the end is that it is critiquing this manner of adapting classic literature, but it is just that. It's exactly what it is critiquing without any nuance or anything, but the sense of humor still works. And Domhnall Gleeson's character Thomas McGregor actually has quite a beautiful arc that he goes through in this film. I really like what the film does with him. It enhances whatever generic shit they did with him in the first film, so I think it really works well. The visual effects in these movies have surprisingly always been good. I really love the look of the rabbits. I love the look of the animals in general, but particularly the rabbits, which are the most important animals in these films. I really like how the model for them is kind of those embalmed bunny toys rather than actual rabbits and bunnies. I think that works really well. It gives them more life, even though that kind of makes no sense. But the film really allows all the bunnies to kind of have a spotlight in here. Not just Peter himself, but Benjamin, Mopsy, Flopsy, and Cottontail. I can't remember who is who, but Daisy Ridley, Elizabeth Debicki, Margot Robbie. I really like them all. I really like the family dynamic that they have going on. The sense of humor with the animals is also really good a lot of times. Particularly the fox and the rooster in the farm are the show stealers, and Daisy Ridley clearly was having the day of her life when she went to record her voice for this film. She's clearly having a ball. I love what she does here. The writing itself in general feels more edgy in a good way. The sense of humor is refreshingly self-aware, even if the film by the end doesn't end up doing anything with it. It's refreshing to see that they knew what they were doing, they were kind of hypocritical about it, and they just had fun with it. And I think the film flows much better than the first one did. And again, I enjoy the first one just fine. I think this one stands up because the lesson it's trying to teach is effective, it is important, characters have arcs, characters create and develop relationships, the sense of humor is on point in general. For as much as the first one surprised me that it was directed by Will Gluck, this one feels very much like a Will Gluck film, the director of Easy 8. It has that kind of sense of humor that really is refreshing to see in movies like this. They're supposed to be for kids, but there's a lot of adult humor here. Things that will go over kids' heads, but in the end, the lesson is still there for them. So I think Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway, surprisingly, is a more welcoming film for every kind of audience. Does the film have issues? Yes. tons of them. As I mentioned, it has this kind of critique that it wants to make about Hollywood adaptations when it is exactly being that without not trying to be anything different, but it is kind of unassuming in that sense. It knows what it is, it pokes fun at itself. The film also doesn't reinvent the wheel, if you want to take that into account. It's nothing new that you haven't seen before. It's a kids film that has sprinkles of really good adult humor in there, and that's just it. But one thing that I do want to talk about, and that I respect this film a lot for, is that the visual effects in general for the animals and all that are really good. But there are two instances in this film where the filmmakers clearly didn't spend a lot of money or didn't give a lot of time to the VFX companies to work on certain visual effects. And the fact that they didn't, and the fact that the visual effects in these two sequences were really bad, actually enhanced the humor. It actually made the scene funnier for it. So it's something that I respect in the craftsmanship of filmmaking, when you know that something is shit, but they were able to use that to their advantage. And that's a perfect encapsulation of Peter Rabbit 2: The Runaway. It's a very generic film, but they use it to bring some fresh air into it, and I think it stands out from the pack because of that. Again, not anything special. I don't think I'm going to revisit this one, but it is one you should at least give a chance to. I'm giving Peter Rabbit 2: The Runaway a C+. Now, what did you think of Peter Rabbit 2: The Runaway? Let me know in the comments below if you have seen it. I know it's not out in the States yet, but it's out here in the UK and in other places too, so I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed the first one. Let me know again all your thoughts on the first one, on the books if you've read them, all of that. Start the conversation. It's the most important part. And again, if you've watched this far but still haven't subscribed, please consider clicking it. We are very close to 3K subscribers, and I want to celebrate that with you, so whenever we do achieve that, we'll do some sort of video celebration, maybe a live Q&A. Thank you so much for watching. You are the best. Stay tuned for many more reviews to come very soon. I hope to see you there, and so until then, love each other and love the movies.